Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives. This is Jess, and I'm so excited to be sitting here with Megan Weaver, who you guys all know for her 7 seasons on Flipping Out. You're the co-host of Jeff Lewis Live on SiriusXM, and you're an interior designer in your own right.
Correct on all accounts.
Correct on all accounts. What's up? How are you today?
I'm good. I am so busy. It's just like when you just said what I do, I literally took a breath and I was like, oh my God.
I mean, so today you did the radio already with Jeff, right?
You know what? Today I didn't do the radio. It was Fortune Feemster, who's hilarious, and my other co-host, Doug Buden. So I got the day off, which was such a gift because I had a very big job interview for a massive remodel up here in Beverly Hills. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it was actually a blessing that I wasn't on the radio today, but I will be tomorrow and Thursday. I'm usually on all 4 days.
Amazing. I mean, there's so many different aspects to your career and your life, but I guess, listen, the number one question that I want to dive in with you is, how did you first meet Jeff Lewis?
This is a really good story. So just like everybody else, I was a huge fan of Flipping Out. Season 1 and season 2, I was a viewer just like everybody. And I would say to my then husband, you know, I feel like I know this guy. I feel like he's a friend of mine. I swear it's a weird, and he would look at me literally like I was crazy. Like, okay, Megan, you feel like you know this guy. And so cut to, I think it was season 2 or season 3, my girlfriends took me out to dinner. It was my birthday or something, at a local restaurant in Studio City called Firefly. And they had one of these co-ed bathrooms, unisex bathrooms, but this was before.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is ahead of its time.
It was way ahead of its time. This was about 12 years ago. And I walked into this co-ed bathroom, and standing right in front of me was Jeff Lewis. And I reacted just how everybody reacts, because you have to understand, I've been traveling with him. I've been with him for the past,
So you're
11.
in the bathroom with
in
Jeff
the bathroom,
Lewis.
Not in the stall yet, but just by the sinks. And he's standing in front of me. And I literally looked at him and I went, holy fuck. Holy fuck, it's Jeff Lewis. And he's like, hi. And he just, he was as gracious then as he is now. He is the nicest person to meet in face to face. He's very generous. He's very gracious. He looks you in the eye. He asks you questions. And so he started to ask me questions. Who are you? What do you do? And I just explained to him that I was a new fledgling interior designer, and I was really inspired by his work. And not more importantly, but I said, more than you, I really like your partner Ryan Brown's designs. Uh-huh. So I kind of insulted him while giving him a compliment, and I think he liked that. So anyway, to make a long story short, I went to his table and I met Ryan and I met him. And the next day I sent them both a gift. Smart. And yeah, it's always, that old fashioned thing. It goes a long way. And I had interviews with both of them, and I ended up working for Jeff. So that's how it started. Yeah.
And how all of a sudden did you wind up on Flipping Out?
So it goes with the territory. So he hired me, believe it or not, I went into it for the interview pretty soon after that chance meeting at the restaurant. And then I went in and he hired me, but then I didn't start working for him for about a year. Meaning he was going through a lot of stuff with his partner at the time, Ryan Brown, his business partner, and things were just a little shaky in his business. So he wasn't quite ready to bring me on. So it took him about a year. Then I started working for him. And when you start and working for him very slowly, like he would have me pick out all his outdoor pillows and, plants and just little jobs here and there. He was testing me out. But along with working for him, there's cameras. They filmed Flipping Out for about 5 months out of the year. So it just was par for the course. If you were there, you were going to be filmed.
And did you immediately click with Jenni? What was your relationship with her? And just the other people in the office, what was that all like?
Very immediate. It was, a very loving, especially with Jenni and Sarah. At the time I started, it was Sarah, Jenni, Trace, Gage. They were new in their relationship back then. He wasn't on camera. He stayed away for the first couple of seasons that he was dating Jeff. I went to Jeff's 40th birthday. He went to mine. We were still just kind of newish friends. Jenni, I loved immediately. She was just so warm and welcoming and she wasn't threatened by somebody new in the office. I mean, I think she was used to the high turnover at Jeff Lewis Design. So she's probably thinking, I don't know how long this one's going to last.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because you did leave. Did you not quit 5 times?
I quit 5 times. Yeah, I did.
So talk about that, the high turnover in his office. And I guess you're a perfect example because you literally left 5 times and yet you clearly love this guy.
Yeah. Well, look, I love him. He is, family to me at this point. But back then, I don't know that I loved him. I think that he was a little bit of a meal ticket and an inspiration to learn from. He was like the grand professor. So yeah, I mean, what happened was, I think it was just sort of a natural progression of things. I think there was a little less work in the beginning, and then I kind of tried to pursue my own design business on my own, which now is quite successful. But back then I was, starting out. And I can't remember all of the exact details of the circumstances where I left. I can tell you the last time I left, which was at the end of season 11, which was the last flipping out season. I needed the cameras, I'll be really, really honest and transparent. The cameras were going down. So we were wrapping the entire season, and in fact, the entire series, because it was canceled after that. And I didn't see myself working for Jeff without cameras there. It was sort of like, meaning it felt to me that it was the time to just go and pursue my own interior design business instead of working in his office 3 to 4 days a week, which is what I was doing while we were filming.
Bravo is notorious for not canceling shows. So shows like Real Housewives of Miami and The People's Couch, they literally could technically be picked up tomorrow for a new season. They just let shows just
go.
Yeah, they just don't re-sign the contracts.
Yeah, so Jeff jokes a lot of the time that, he doesn't even know if he got canceled. It's just that he hasn't heard from anybody in 2.5 years, So it is true. There isn't like a big, it's not a guillotine kind of a situation. So yeah, they kind of leave the door open. In my personal opinion, I do think flipping out is dead. I think that there are other things on the horizon for Jeff, hopefully, as far as, television goes. He's got his radio show that's, I think, pretty successful. We don't really know the numbers, but he gets a lot of advertisers, which leads me to believe that he's doing pretty well on that show.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, what's great is his show, Jeff Lewis Live, which has now been on the air for 4 years, a while at this point.
I think it's the better part of it. I think it's 2.5, and it's some change. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing it with him?
So I was always a guest host. I would come in once every couple weeks. Gage was his news person and really his right-hand host on the show. So I would just show up once in a while just for shits and giggles. And then when things went south with his relationship with Gage, he realized that Gage wasn't going to be, it wouldn't work with him being a co-host while their relationship was crumbling.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. So he asked me to fill in, and it was a temporary thing. And it just, I guess I'm still filling in.
No, but it's fantastic. It's a way to really keep the flipping out family alive.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it. It's true. And I think, as far as, we have certain people from the flipping out world come back in, like Monica Casey, goes by Casey now, the actress who was married to George Eads. And you saw Jeff do their house together. She comes on as a guest, and so does Krista Lamas. She was our big client in La Jolla, and now she's moved to LA, and she comes on. So there is this great sort of rotation of people who are familiar to the flipping out fans, which I think is valuable and fun.
Going back to the show, what's interesting is, okay, Jeff is notorious for having this difficult personality, being very difficult to work with.
Yes.
And while ultimately he and Jenni couldn't necessarily work together in the end, you and Jeff can. Why do you think that is?
If I'm going to speak for myself and not for Jeff, I don't know why he wants my company all the time. But for me, like I said earlier, I do love him. I do care about him. I am not super emotionally invested. Do you know what I mean? It's more like I care about him. We are friends. We do hang out socially. We do a lot together. I just don't put all my eggs in his friendship basket, you know, and and in that way, maybe it's a self-protection, you know, thing where he can't, things that he says and things that he does and his behavior, and when it's outrageous, it doesn't really affect me in a super negative. Sort of my feelings get hurt once in a while, of course. You know, I'm with Jeff Lewis. It's going to happen.
Right.
But for the most part, I kind of just, you know, it rolls off my back. And I think he knows that.
As far as filming the show, Flipping Out, I guess, you said you were filming 5 months out of the year. Can you sort of paint a picture of like, how was this show produced?
Flipping Out is not really as much of a reality show as it is a docuseries. So nothing is scripted. Nothing is planned. They aren't planning vacations and feeding us drinks and hoping that we do bad things. You know, it is absolutely a slice of Jeff's life. And a lot of it was boring. You know, a lot of it was just driving in the car or meeting people who were, you know, not funny. And you know what I mean? It was really just about cameras following us. The funny stuff happened, but it happens now without cameras. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we're like, I think to myself sometimes when I'm with him, oh my God, wouldn't that be great if there was a camera with us right now? But so it was all very organic. Nothing was produced. Yes, we had a producer on the set with us all the time. Billy Taylor was our showrunner and our producer. And he went away for a couple of seasons, and you can tell those seasons that he went away. I think that was when Andrew Coleman was on. And it was just a different vibe. It wasn't as good. Billy is incredibly talented in the way he, you know, weaved the stories together. His music, his shooting was gorgeous. And he was just an exceptional showrunner and producer. And really, you know, behind the scenes, I mean, we'd wave to him once in a while when he was hiding in the garage with the rest of the crew, but very, very much, you know, a fly on the wall.
Did he produce any other shows that we would know?
Yes. I think one of them was that crazy designer with the dark hair, fashion lady.
Brad Goreski? And
no, but the girl, Whitney Port, worked for her. And so did
Kelly Catrone.
Kelly Catrone, that's it.
Oh, he did Blind Date. Oh, holy shit. He executive produced Workout on Bravo, which
with what's her name?
With Jackie Warner, which I'm obsessed with. Very interesting. Oh, so he was the lead magic EP for Flipping Out.
He was the one who made it the kind of edgy docuseries that it was meant to be.
In the last season, I remember Lala from Vanderpump Rules and Randall. I know Jeff was like working on some pieces of their house. Were you part of that project?
This is a very sore subject.
Oh my God, is it?
Okay, so Jeff did work on their house. And then after cameras went down, Randall approached Jeff again and said, I need more help with a whole bunch of other things. And Jeff said he wasn't available. And he said, okay, well, give me your girl. And your girl meant me. So I went and met with Randall and Lala, and I started working for them. And I worked for them for about a better part of a year, longer than a year. I can't even remember. And I did an amazing job on their master bedroom, their master bath. I even saved their ass. They had a contractor that went south on them. And I kind of stepped in and brought all my subcontractors in and rescued them from a really horrible situation. And we became really close. Lala was lovely. She is just such a darling, wonderful spirit. She's very warm, big-hearted.
You know, she's pregnant now.
Yeah, I do. I'm so happy for her. I knew she really wanted to be a mom, and she's going to be a great mom. She's got that big lioness, you know, mama bear thing about her. She's amazing. Towards the end, it got a little rocky with, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it got a little rocky with just payment stuff, you know, and I decided to take a step away.
I'm just curious, like, who were some of the bigger names that weren't filmed? Because I know the same thing with like $1 Million Listing.
Yeah.
Some of like Frederick Eklund does work with Sarah Jessica Parker and J-Lo. Like that's obviously not getting films for $1 Million Listing. Like, were there any people who you got to work for through Jeff that were like sort of in that rarefied air that like we would just be surprised or like interested to hear about?
Yeah, I feel like just for, I think that he signed a few NDAs.
Ooh, okay.
So because of that, I'm not really at liberty to give the name drop. I would like to. I've got a few in my head right now, but I think by sort of proxy, I also signed those NDAs, so I can't really tell you who they are. But he has worked some really good, big, solid, huge celebrities, and when I would go and work with him with those people, they were all so delightful and wonderful to work with.
Let's get into your story. So you're from LA. And from what I understand, you really picked up your skill or your inspiration for interior design from your mom.
I did. Yeah, 100%.
So like, where did you go to high school? Like, where in LA did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in the Valley. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. So I lived between two freeways in North Hollywood in my youth. And then we moved to Studio City and then Sherman Oaks. So I've lived all over the Valley. I went to Providence High School in Burbank. And then I stayed close to home and went to Loyola Marymount, LMU. And yeah, I really haven't I worked for Steven Spielberg for many, many years. And through that experience, I got to travel.
What did you do for Steven Spielberg?
Well, it was my first job out of college. I was a PA at Amblin. So I rode around on the golf cart all over Universal Studios and stocked fridges and delivered. Back in the day, you would deliver the dailies to people's desks before everything was online. And then I just worked my way up, and I became sort of a floater and would fill in on people's desks. And then I ended up working for the president and vice president, Laurie McDonald and Walter Parks, as an assistant. And then they kind of gave me a story editor job or assistant story editor, where I worked closely with the story editor at Amblin. Then it all became DreamWorks, as you all know.
Yes.
And I was there for that. That was a really exciting time because it went from just this little tiny, not little tiny, but, relatively small production company to a huge movie studio. And I'll never forget the day that we sat in the theater at Amblin, about 40 of us, and we got to vote on the name DreamWorks. So there were other names in the running. And so that was pretty exciting. And the logo with the little boy in the moon with the fishing pole. Like, it was a magical, magical time and an incredible experience.
And what movies were you around for the making of?
So I started on Jurassic Park. That was pretty incredible. Schindler's List, I was filling in for Steven's assistant. So I didn't go to Poland, but I sat in the office during Schindler's List, and I would fax Steven the TV guide, because back then there was a company that would record TV shows on videotape. Every TV show that ever aired, they would record on videotape, and they'd keep it for like a week. So we would order videotapes of his favorite shows. He liked Cops. Just random shows. And I would get the videotapes and send them to Poland with like beef jerky and Cheetos and, things like that. So Schindler's List was a big one. Oh gosh, there were so many. Men in Black, Twister.
I love Twister. I know we're talking about like Schindler's List. Honestly, Twister is like kind of mage. What did you do what was going on?
Oh, of course. It was one of the first, I think it was the second DreamWorks movie. It was really exciting. My father was a National Geographic writer, producer, director. So he knew about storm chasers, and he did documentaries on storm chasers. So that movie really hit close to home for me because I grew up with a dad who loved storm chasing and loved, storm chasers and was friends with a few of them. So I loved that movie. I wasn't on the set very much because at that point I was working in the office for, again, the president and vice president. And I was more interested in rearranging the furniture in their offices than I was reading the script. So I should have realized then what I was meant to do.
So really your job was to read the script, and what exactly?
Well, my job started out as answering phones and scheduling their appointments and rolling calls. They say rolling calls, which is connecting them while they're in their cars to all these very important people. But listening in you'd have to listen in on those calls because you'd have to write notes. And so they were talking to people like Tom Hanks and Martin Short, and Steven Spielberg. And so that was always really, really fun. Later, yes, I started reading scripts for Laurie and telling her which ones I liked, and we would talk about them. And that was always really great. But it got to a point where they still like always saw me as, little Megan, who sometimes the growth, when you start so young, the growth isn't really there. So then I left and worked on a movie called Forces of Nature with Sandra Bullock and Ben Affleck.
Classic from the 90s.
That's such a great movie. That I went to Savannah for, and then I was working for a couple of producers that had deals at DreamWorks. And that was an incredible experience.
I mean, there's so many questions that come to mind. I guess like to start, like what was the biggest observation or lesson that you were able to glean from Spielberg, who is such a master at his work?
Wow. I mean, most importantly, I think what I took away from, and by the way, when you're working for people at this level, there's a lot of pressure. And I think that I was never, the entire time I worked for Steven Spielberg, for the president and vice president, for the two producers, for Leonardo DiCaprio, I worked for Al Pacino, nobody was anything less than kind to me. They were so kind. Nobody yelled, and I think I worked for very difficult, very strong, very powerful, successful people. And I just learned how to treat others, and I learned also, I mean, no mountain is too high, and whatever you set out to do, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. I know that sounds cliche, but if you kind of look at the trajectory of these people's careers, I mean, Steven had Schindler's List in his back pocket in a filing cabinet for, 10, 15 years before he made it. So there are things like that where, strive for, the impossible and you can make it happen. I mean, they made things happen that just, blew my mind. So, I mean, that could be a lesson, but more importantly, they were always really kind and respectful, and they made me work really hard. So I gleaned an incredible work ethic from working for these people. So, I mean, those are probably the three biggest.
And with Forces of Nature, you said that you were on set for that one.
I found everybody their houses, all the cast, all the big, the above the line people. Yeah. That was intense.
Were you social? I mean, if you found Sandra Bullock and Ben Affleck's houses that they were going to live in temporarily while filming this movie, were you like going to drinks with them?
Totally.
Oh
I have one drunken night. The Sandra Bullock is absolutely the most regular girl. She's like one of, like, not now, but she's like one of your best friends. She's just so approachable and fun and regular. I think we had a really big tequila night one of the nights at the AD's house, and they had a pool. And she threw me in the pool with my cell phone, my pager, everything. So she was so much fun to work with. And Ben was great. He was great. He was dating Gwyneth Paltrow at the time.
Amazing.
He was a little less available, but we would joke around and pal around and had a great time. And I was really good friends with his assistant. We had a great time together. So yes, it was very much a familial, environment.
I love that. And how did you leave the movie world? And then so you leave the movie world, and then how did you decide that you were going to transition into interior design?
So I left the movie world and I started working for the internet world. So that was pop.com and Leonardo DiCaprio's internet company. Then I modeled. I became a Ford model and did some modeling for a couple of years. And then I got married and became a mom and took a break and just had these two little kids. My husband at the time was a composer, so it was really all about his career and getting him going with that.
What kind of composer?
He's a film and television composer, mostly television.
What's his name?
Yeah. Robert Duncan. What's his show right now? Drew? What's Dad composing right now? I don't know. A bunch of TV shows.
But wait, has he worked on any shows that we would know?
Yeah, tons. He started with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Then he did The Unit. Now he does, I wish one of my kids was right here. They can tell you better than I can. I've got a terrible memory. But yeah, he does a lot of action television shows, military. He's very prolific. Yeah, so I was a mom.
Your kids have some parents with this, Jesus. All right, so.
They come by it honestly.
So now you're a mom. And then how do you pursue or start your own design company?
So when they were babies, actually I was pregnant with my son when I bought the house I'm currently in, and I tore it down to its studs and I remodeled this house. At the same time, my family was building a beach house in Malibu. a little like, it used to be a trailer. We turned it into a house in Paradise Cove in Malibu. And I was doing a friend's house in Hancock Park. And I decided that this seems like what I do. I'm a designer. And so I just turned it into a business. And short after I started, I met Jeff. So it kind of all happened pretty quickly.
So that was like total kismet that you run into him in a, shall we say, gender neutral bathroom.
That's what they call them now, but back was right. So I always joke that back then, if you told me that now I would see him call my cell phone and just send it to voicemail, I wouldn't believe you. I would not believe you. I would try and dodge his calls. I would say you're absolutely crazy.
And what is the Megan Weaver design aesthetic? What's your personal vibe?
So my design aesthetic is really just very light, bright, lots of windows, lots of skylights, light floors, light walls. I love to design for families, kids, dogs, furniture that you can destroy, floors that aren't too precious that dogs can, scratch, kids can ride their bikes on. And also, like I said, I met with somebody today for a job, and I was just explaining to them that, my design runs the gamut. It's very versatile. If you want a modern farmhouse, I can give you a modern farmhouse. If you want a little beach cottage, I can give you that. If you want super, super modern, I can give you that. It's not my favorite, and I'll probably tweak it anyway and make you like it, and you won't realize that you like it. But it's a little bit modern, clean, but warm and livable and cozy and light and bright.
How much should you invest in expensive furniture? Because like you said, if you have dogs and kids, and isn't it just going to get destroyed? How do you pick and choose what in investment statement pieces versus things that you'll replace, like a rug, every year, couple years?
You're speaking my language. I believe in disposable furniture. I believe that your sofa should not cost more than $3,500. In fact, it should cost, $2,100, especially if you've got kids and dogs. I think that you should buy your rugs from a company called Ruggable, where you can pull those rugs up and put them in the washing machine. I've used them for years. It's just such a convenience.
What do you think of those Jill Zarin rugs?
I like them. Again, let's talk about, when you've got kids and dogs and kids are spilling chocolate milk in their marinara sauce and your dogs are throwing up and, they're very inexpensive. She's got some really great designs. I love them, and they're super, super inexpensive.
Jill Zarin will literally sit in front of you. She did this at BravoCon front of me and poured what did she do? She on Instagram, she does it with wine, but in person, she did it. She had like a little pop-up thing at BravoCon. She poured some liquid. I was like, oh, Jesus. But like, she managed to get it out. It's like a magic trick.
Yeah. I always encourage my clients to, in a room where the dogs aren't allowed, sure, buy a statement piece rug. If you don't have dogs or kids and you're careful and your friends are careful, sure, buy a beautiful rug, because there's nothing more incredible than a gorgeous viscose rug. But if you have kids and you have dogs and you've got drunk friends, I say absolutely get a Jill Zarin rug, get a rug from Ruggable that you can roll up and throw in the washing machine. There's a lot of options out there that weren't there before. So I say, do it. And I'm never going to sell anybody a $20,000 sofa. It's never going to happen.
How long should a person have their sofa for?
I think until, for example, we have a sofa that we pull the covers off of and we throw them in the washing machine because the dogs get on them, the kids spill stuff on them. I think when it starts to look too worn, you can either get a new sofa or look into, if you love that sofa, it feels good, the cushions are comfortable, there's nothing wrong with the design, look into recovering it.
Yes.
If you have a good upholster, the fabric, just get something that's durable, like a washed. I always love that washed denim Restoration Hardware look. They have that cloud sofa, that white.
Yes.
I always love that. It's a little messy looking, but for a family room, it's cool. But yeah, I think once it starts to look tattered, or you have, you start thinking,
You just mentioned Restoration Hardware. What are your go-to store when you're shopping for a client? What are your go-to stores that you'll give them catalogs, or like what are your favorites?
So I use Mitchell Gold a lot. I love them. I love their furniture. They're very well priced. I love HD Buttercup is always fun, they've got a couple warehouses. And then I also love Alder and Tweed, which is a company that Jeff worked for many years, doing their catalogs and their showrooms. So I sometimes will dip into the Alder and Tweed catalog. Then I love your basic West Elm, CB2. Restoration is great. They tend to be pricey.
Regular Restoration hardware is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a little unaffordable. Sometimes they have, long lead times.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
I have several items from Restoration Hardware Teen and Baby and Child. The sconces in my bedroom are from Restoration Hardware Baby and Child, and you would never, they're gorgeous. And they're like literally $200 each. And
I love
they're
that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, no, they have got some incredible pieces. And for Lala and Randall, I did a lot of restoration chandeliers for them because they're just so spectacular, and I get a little discount, but it's not anything that, brings it back down to a normal level by any means. But those are generally, I love the West Elms and I love the CB2s and, I love those guys.
Do you watch Housewives?
Of course I do.
Okay, good. What did we think of Dorit's Capri room at Buca di Beppo?
Oh, God. It was terrible. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. She's so stylish. She dresses so well. She's so creative with her hairstyles and her get-ups. Her house that they bought in Encino, which I heard is for sale, is so stylish. It's so well done. It's so well decorated. I don't know what the hell she was thinking. It's like she took a trip back in a time machine to 1984. With the fake flowers and the yellow stripes and oh my God.
That is based on an actual restaurant in Capri called, okay. I think it's called the Lemon Tree, something like that, where there are actual like lemons on. She literally just tried to recreate this actual place, except it's in an island off of.
Yeah, and I'm sure it also has doors to the outside that's charming and a beautiful cobblestone path that leads up to this. This is in the middle of Buca di Beppo, like in Encino. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. I think she missed the mark.
That's so funny. Isn't it weird that house that they've lived in literally a year is on the market again?
Yeah, I reported this on the news on Jeff Lewis Live. I think it was last week I reported it. They want something, what I read was that they want something bigger because they want to work out of the house. Now, what Jeff and I said is that sounds fishy. It sounds fishy because that house is huge. That house has rooms upon rooms upon rooms and a guest house. There's plenty of room to work in that house. He thinks, and I don't know, he's a conspiracy theorist, and he thinks allegedly, which we always say on Jeff Lewis Live, that they can't sell their Beverly Hills house. So they're going to have to unload this one and they may move back into that one. That's just his theory. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it seems they just bought it and it's so beautiful, that house in Encino.
I think they were renting that house in Beverly Hills, the one with those crazy stairs.
Yes. So I don't know what's going on. It seems a little weird. I'm not going to lie. We're not getting the full story, I don't think.
Who are you friendly with in either the Beverly Hills cast or OC?
Yeah, obviously I did Teddi Mellencamp's All In program with Jeff. So she was my coach, and so I dealt with her on that. And then I have a friend who's best friends with Kyle, so I've seen Kyle in passing. We're not buddies. We don't hang out. My real buddy, my true blue, diehard, ride or die, is Kelly Dodd.
Really?
Yeah, she's my bud. I know she's been putting her foot in it a little bit lately with this COVID stuff, or she did, or she got some backlash for something she said a while ago. But she's just so great. She's so genuine. What you see is what you get. She's funny. She's got the biggest heart. She's so loving. She's just such a ball of love. I love that girl. And then, of course, there's Shannon Bedore, who Jeff is really good friends with. She's awesome. Tamara, I don't know very well. She just gave me some of her CBD products, which are fabulous. Vina is her company. Uh-huh. But her and Jeff are close.
So tell me, please do not leave out any details about your experience on Teddi Mellencamp's All In program.
Oh my God. Okay. I can't tell you like the menu because that is also top secret, but I can tell you that the accountability part of it is intense. So you do have to wake up and take a picture of the scale. You have to take a picture of your food every meal. It's timed. If you don't take a picture by a certain time, you're out. There's all these, and I guess they do this because, it's called accountability. So you have a coach, you get assigned a coach. It's not Teddi, it's somebody else. And
so Teddi wasn't your coach?
She was in the beginning with Jeff and I, but then when Jeff finished, I continued on. I had more weight to lose. I was really successful losing the weight. So I wanted to keep going. And then she gave me my own coach. She would peek in every once in a while and see how I was doing and crack the whip if she needed to. But it was a very intense program. I will tell you, it works. It is 100% effective. I elected not to continue. Oh, it's also very affordable, by the way, for your listeners.
How much is it?
I don't know that I'm at liberty to say, but let me just tell you, it's very affordable. It's nothing astronomical at all.
Talk to me about the calorie recommendations and the types of exercise that she okays. Because I had heard that it's cardio only. She doesn't want you lifting weights.
Well, my experience was doing a lot of cardio. And I did. And I'm telling you guys, if you restrict your calories and you work out every day for an hour, you're gonna lose weight. It's gonna happen. I mean, it's science, It was hard. It was, for me, it was hard. It got to be a little bit.
Like how much could you eat in a day?
You ate. You eat. There wasn't any calorie counting. There were menu guidelines that you would follow. And I never felt hungry. You just have to do what she says and you do it. And it works. I think that anytime you're being held accountable to somebody else, there's something that happens to you where you don't want to disappoint, right? You want to be the star student. You want to, make them proud. And I'll tell you, that works because when it's late at night and you want to go munch, you're going to say to yourself, because I got to get up in the morning and that scale has to go down half a pound, so it's effective. For me, it started to become a little too stressful. So I elected to stop, and then I gained all the weight back.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely, loosened the reins on myself and gained, I gained it all back. But now what I'm doing is I stopped drinking, and I am trying to keep my calories around 1,300 and exercise. And I think that's for me, that's working.
Lifting weights,
yeah,
is a phenomenal way to lose weight in general. And you don't have to go crazy with the cardio, to be honest. If you just walk a decent mileage per day.
My boyfriend does that. He walks. Right now we have horrible fires, so we're not walking outside. I can't even breathe. Literally, I'm having a hard time breathing. The smoke is so thick in our neighborhood. But when there aren't fires in California, he walks 5 miles and then he comes back and does some weights and he swears by it. So I might just follow suit.
Yes. Yeah, lifting weights is the way to go. So you're still in touch with Jenni. I mean, is there any...
I'm not in touch with Jenni.
Oh, you're not?
No. She... look, I understand. She had a big falling out with Jeff. And, I didn't take sides. In the beginning, I was very much neutral. And I saw her side of things and I saw his side of things. And nobody ever asked me to take sides. I didn't take sides. But I think she elected to stop communication with me because I think it was confusing and a little too, I think she just wanted to snip the tie with Jeff. And I went along with it. Collateral damage.
Is there any truth to the idea that was flipping out always going to be about Jeff's life? Or because I had heard, somebody told me that originally it was actually about Jenni and her husband.
Yeah, it wasn't. What happened was, I hope I have this right, and I think I do. I've heard it a million times. Jenni and her husband Chris were working for Jeff. Right? There's no TV show at this point. Jenni and Chris are actors. They decided to pitch something about bosses or horrible bosses or something along those lines, and asked Jeff if he would be a part of this sizzle reel or something. And he said, sure. So when the company, I don't know what company it was, I don't think it was Bravo, I'm not sure, saw the sizzle reel about this show they said, we want him, just him. He's the one we want to make a show about. So that happened. and Jenni was a part of it. And I believe she was an executive producer later on, but it was specifically about Jeff's life and the cast of characters he surrounds himself with, and, you know, his work, his maid, his cats, you know.
But that's so interesting that Jenni and her husband, the seed of it was with them.
I know, and that has to sting a little bit, I would think, at some point in time. But it wasn't, you know, look, she became part of the show. It was her and Jeff, you know, a frickin' frack. And I think it, you know, worked out for her for many, many, many years. You know, she was just as much a part of that show as Jeff was. And they went hand in hand, and it worked.
She sings the theme song on Watch What Happens Live.
She does. And, you know, she did collect a paycheck, you know, so things worked out for her. So that show really, you know, changed her life also. So, you know, I think that maybe, you know, it's tough. Things get political in situations like that. It's inevitable, you know. And I don't know really all the gritty, nitty details. It was just sad to see it all fall apart.
Were you surprised how transparent, or are you surprised how transparent Jeff is on the radio regarding his breakup and the custody battle with Gage?
Yeah, I mean, there's times where I, you know, sort of cringe, and then, you know, maybe you shouldn't be talking about it. But the thing that is wonderful about Jeff and the radio show, in like flipping out, he doesn't hold back. You know, he's going to give you his whole life. You know, unlike Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, nothing is untouchable. And, you know, that's what people like. And they like to see what's going on with Jeff. You know, there's sometimes I think he reveals a little too much. He thinks he reveals a little too much. But at the end of the day, it's what makes the radio show so unique and special, you know?
I was dying when you guys were planning his funeral and Heather McDonald was picking out his outfit and like literally went into his closet, found the suit. Like that was Howard Stern level theater of the mind. It was very, very good.
I have never laughed harder when she sang the song. She's going to sing. Who gets to speak first? We're going to need seat fillers because he's burned every bridge with every relationship he's ever had. I mean, we need some diversity in the audience. You know, I mean, it was
amazing.
Made me laugh out loud. Oh my God, so funny.
How much, like a lot of what he does on the TV show and on the radio is for shock value. Do you think did he just overplay his hand with Jenni and Zoila back in the day?
I don't know. I think that, you know, he is who he is. He's not very different when cameras are down or when the radio's off than he is in everyday life. You know, I think it takes a certain kind of person to have Jeff around them all the time. You know, he's not the easiest. I will say he has become a lot softer, a lot more reasonable, a lot happier. I will say since Monroe was born, he has changed a lot. So that old Jeff Lewis who would scream at contractors and get red in the face, and that's not him anymore. He doesn't do that. He really doesn't. It's really lovely to see this, you know, new Jeff 2.0.
I guess the final thing we'll go out on is, what are maybe a few things, maybe, you know, top 2-3 things that you'd say that you maybe have learned from Jeff interior wise that you thought you knew, but you didn't?
It's less about interiors. I think I learned the process of, I mean, also doing it myself, but then watching him do like major renovations and builds. The process is what I learned from him the most. The architectural process, the permit process. You got to order windows and doors way before you even need them. You know, all of the procedural stuff I learned most from him. I learned a little bit more about how to style a bookcase from him and a tabletop, which is, you know, and that's from all the years of doing living spaces.
Well, actually, this is interesting. Talk to me about a bookcase. What's the best advice you have for like styling a bookcase? Like I'm literally like looking at mine right now. Like, what's your advice?
Okay, so you need some books. You need some leaner pieces of art that you lean at the back of the bookcase. You need to put the books in different directions. You need to put little objects they art on top of one of the books. It needs to be much more than just a bookcase. You know, little things that just make it stand out. It's not the easiest thing to do. And by the way, my bookcase right now, if I showed you, is a disaster. So I do it for everybody else, but when it comes to mine, I'm like, So yeah, it's just, I always love putting art in the bookcases. Some of my bookshelves are just art, and then there's books, and then beautiful, what do you call them? Bookends, like sometimes those, what do you call those beautiful gemstones, anything with color. Sometimes I put the same color book spines together. Sometimes I don't, have fun with it. A plant, some greenery, things that you just wouldn't normally envision putting in a bookcase, you put in a bookcase. It just gives it some layering and some depth and some different textures. That's my advice.
I love it. Megan, this has been so fun. I could literally talk to you another hour. This was so much fun. Where can everyone find you and listen to you every day on the radio with Jeff?
Yes. Well, you can find me on my Instagram at Megan Catalina. My website is under construction. But that is meganweaverdesign.com. And then you can find us Monday through Thursday on Radio Andy, channel 102 on Sirius XM at 9 a.m. Pacific.
Fantastic. This was so great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it. That was fun.
Awesome. I learned so much. You have quite a fascinating life.
A little bit of a resume.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. You guys can follow me, JessXNYC. Follow the show account, Hot Takes Deep Dives, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.